Hey, I don't know if you watch us regularly, but one of the regular features of our show is something we call In Case You Missed It. It's about weird and often hilarious news stories that actually happened. Now, the truth is, it's getting harder to do that feature because the real news about the country and culture has gotten crazier than the bizarre stories that we find on these obscure news sites. I mean, this week in West Virginia, 5 students from Lincoln Middle School in Harrison County have been banned from participating in sports. For a middle schooler, being told you can't be part of the sports program is like being told you can't have hamburgers, candy, or Taylor Swift albums. So what did these students do that was so outrageous that it got them permanently tossed out of sports? Brace yourselves, for these young female scholars had the audacity to declare themselves to be authentically female, and they had the biological body parts to prove it. Now, they were all in a track program that was allowing a biological boy to compete against them in the girls' shot put event because despite his boy body, he claimed that he felt like a girl, and he wanted to compete against the girls. The girls at Lincoln Middle School were having none of it. And so they all refused to play along. They refused to play along with the lunacy of boys who weren't that good in an event with other boys, just up and pretending to be a girl so as to win at something. Or perhaps more accurate to say, so he could cheat at something. So these young girls proved that some 5th graders are smarter than a Supreme Court justice who claims she doesn't know what a woman is. But they were told they could no longer play the games of the track team because they wouldn't play the games of some brain-dead woke adults who are foolishly trying to destroy over 50 years of hard-fought battles for Title IX that gives female athletes some parity with their male counterparts. The Harrison County School Board in West Virginia, well, they need to resign in disgrace. And the school officials who decided and carried out the extracurricular execution of these young girls ought to be required to repeat middle school biology and then get promptly fired. And after that, they ought to get sued for discrimination, defamation, and quite frankly, for anything else that the lawyers can throw in there. I mean, why not? So, now in other news this week, it was reported that Joe Biden is planning on bringing in Palestinians from Gaza and not only giving them asylum in the U.S., but offering them a fast track to citizenship. Now, the plan would be to give these Palestinians a quick and easy path to enter the U.S., but then provide housing assistance and other benefits. I'm thinking, hey, Joe, how about fast-tracking some housing benefits to homeless veterans who served this country? And have you ever asked, why would the Muslim countries close to them, why wouldn't they take them in? I mean, you got Egypt and Jordan and Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Yemen, and most of the Middle East. Every one of them refuses to allow any of them to come in. What do they know that Joe Biden doesn't know? Well, that's probably a self-answering question right there. Well, maybe it's because Palestinian children are taught from the ages of 4 or 5 that their highest achievement in life would be to kill Jews. And even other Muslim countries that are really trying to be civilized recognize how that mindset would lead to a culture that no sane society wants to embrace. And finally, all over the news this week are the ongoing riots at major universities across the nation, from UCLA all the way to Columbia. Some of the schools have canceled classes and even graduation ceremonies due to threats of violence and perpetual campus unrest. Jewish students have been targeted for hateful rhetoric as well as physical abuse. Since most of the protests are being staged in cities and states being run by leftists whose nutty policies let even violent offenders back on the streets within hours, even minutes of arrest, the lack of consequences means that these selfish brats learn nothing. I mean, if we had a real Department of Justice, there would be federal charges filed against these hooligans for civil rights violations, and They could charge them for impeding an orderly government. Whatever an orderly government would look like. We haven't seen one in decades. But the current DOJ is too busy targeting moms who show up at school board meetings, going after 80-year-old grandmothers who protested at an abortion center. So they don't have time to deal with people who violently disrupt and take over a university campus. You know, we usually close out our In Case You Missed It segment by saying, we read the news, so you don't have to. But when it comes to the real news, maybe we ought to say, we read the news because you don't want to, and you shouldn't have to.